I unfortunately am not employed as a police inspector or as a private investigator, but I may as well be uh, right now because I've been really obsessively looking at the the murders of Mr. and Mrs. Rob Reiner. Um, the shockingly brutal murders of these two older people. He being 78, she being 68, and they were murdered in their bed in their bed, presumably while they were asleep. I don't know if it's been established what time of the night that this or the morning that this happened, um, but reportedly they were attacked with a knife, and both of their throats were cut. I mean, that's about as brutal can get. Um, I mean, I'm sure you can use your imagination and think of some worse ways of murdering someone, but but even a gun would have to the a gunshot to the head would have been brutal while people are sleeping. But stabbing them to death while they're asleep and cutting their throats while they're asleep is a particularly egregious instance of violence against a defenseless older married couple. Now, of course, the main suspect, I think he's gone beyond being the main suspect. He's actually been charged and arrested for the murder. Is their troubled son, Nick, and so I was looking into all the I was uh, uh, just being an obsessive social media stalker to the extent that I could be with any of this stuff. Um, just asking what could possibly make a son murder his parents in this manner. It's of course, murder in itself is the ultimate crime. Murder under aggravated circumstances is murder with torture involved or whatever, makes this ultimate crime even worse. But again, the sheer brutality of a knife being used, and not just being used haphazardly, but being used with precision, with the kind of precision that it takes to cut two people's throats. This just this has me perplexed, and I must admit, somewhat intrigued in a morbid kind of way. I don't want to sound like I'm, getting off on other people's misery, because it's not. It's definitely not about that. No matter how much I might have found Rob Reiner annoying, as far as his political views or whatever, as being representative of the aging boomer Hollywood liberal type. I did like a lot of his movies, and so I don't have any axe to grind here. I just want to know. I want to know what happened and why it happened, and I'm not really satisfied with what I've read up so far. That we have the full picture. what we're told is that Nick, he was in and out of rehab for all of his, or for much of his youth. He eventually got clean at, like in his late teens, early 20s for a time. And during that time period, back in 2015, Nick co-wrote, and Rob Reiner directed a movie called Being Charlie, which is a thinly veiled autobiography of Nick's troubles with struggling with addiction, and his parents' response to his struggles. Other than this movie, though, Nick has no writing credits. He apparently had aspirations to do more in the biz, and he is, what you'd call a nepo baby. I mean, it's an insulting term. I know it's maybe not totally fair, but it's one of those things that people who see this case say, well, what, I can understand if he grew up in the hood, like with no advantages whatsoever, getting desperate and violent and being on drugs and all that. But somebody who just grows up with everything, like this kid did, what's the deal? Why does he go off the rails? Why can't he? There's like a resentfulness in the way that some people talk about it. Why can't he appreciate what he had? What I'm thinking is we're not getting the full picture of everything, and I don't know if we ever will, because what I can't square is the throat cutting. The throat cutting your parents' throats while they're asleep at night. I know that supposedly lately Nick has been struggling. From the word is that Nick was struggling with methamphetamines, which is a different kind of drug than the opiates that he was apparently addicted to before. And I know that that meth can fuel rage in a person. And supposedly the family were at a party at Conan O'Brien's house the night before. I'm just smiling because, like, oh, celebrities everywhere. Like, it sounds like I'm name dropping almost. But they were at this party and they were heard arguing. And there was, precedent of that he lived in this guest house, but that he there remained tension between him and his parents, and that he was still having problems with drugs and sometimes stealing money and doing what have you. There apparently was a time when he was, maybe during the time of his brief sobriety in 2018, 2019, where Nick was teaching a couple of classes at UC Irvine. So he was an actual instructor teaching screenwriting, I think. He got his MFA in poetry. That's like the ultimate useless degree. That's like the ultimate nepo baby kind of degree to pursue. Like the MFA in creative writing, it's just become this sort of cliche. Like people who get get that degree don't really have many options ahead of them career-wise, and so they probably they probably have something to they're probably not that worried about having to make a living for themselves. That's how it's often discussed, and I think maybe with some justice. But I just keep so he was sober for I guess a bit, and then it's sketchy, but then the drugs came back into his life, and he was I guess at the time, from what I can understand, from what I can ascertain, he was living on his parents' property in a guest house, kind of like Kato Kalin with OJ. And on this night after they came back from this party where they had been arguing, it's not said what they were arguing about. There are no details that I'm aware of out there. And yeah, this is sort of all snatches of gossip and what have you, and I get that, but I'm intrigued just by by where it all went, which is the throat slashings. So Nick is on meth. Let's say he's on a meth binge, and he's angry and upset, and people on meth do get rowdy. They do get out of control. They get violent, sometimes with property, sometimes with other people. But it seems that somebody just on a meth binge, and there are some like outlier stories of murders taking place, like people getting on meth and just shooting somebody or stabbing somebody or beating somebody up, or but it's always like a sort of out of control kind of behavior. But the kind of precision that it takes to cut someone's throats, to cut the throats of your own mother and father, to be able to do that, it seems to me, from what I've seen, from what I've read, that's not a typical thing that meth or any drug would get you to do. Any drug that makes you violent, that tends to make you violent. Is meth? I think meth and PCP, are they the same thing? Angel dust, all that. I'm not big on the lingo, but my what I keep coming back to is the throat slashings. Just imagine standing over your parents. They're lying in bed asleep. You have a knife, and you don't just like if you're angry, if you're on a rager, you could maybe suspect him going after them and like haphazardly stabbing at them, and but just to go for the jugular, to cut the throat, that takes precision, that takes focus. So what's going on here? What's going on? I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know what I suspect. There are certain things that come to mind, but I don't want to go right to saying something like demons, because that kind of makes you seem like like a fanatic. If that's the first thing you mention. Was it possible somebody else did it? I don't know. I don't know what kind of evidence they have. What kind of DNA evidence do they have against him? Is there just the presumption that he did it because he was a drug addict and was out of control and resented his parents for various things, and so is there actual evidence linking him to the crime? Is something I think is maybe worth looking into. I don't know if that information is being made known right now. But if he did it, I get back to what could make you do something like that to your parents, no matter how, and we all get fed up with the people in our lives. But I can't connect what I saw of this guy in interviews and whatnot. I can't connect that with what's really a cold-blooded act of using a knife to cut your parents' throats while they lay in bed. I can't make that connection in my mind. Granted, I don't know him. I don't know any of these people. So take any of this for whatever you think it's worth. But it's like something doesn't add up, or by that I mean either somebody else maybe did it, which is I don't know. That's probably not the case, but it's a possibility at least to consider. Or if he did it, what might have been his motivation? That's what I would come back to. What's the motivation to do something like that to your own parents? Why would you do that? No matter how much you hate them, why would you do that? Why would you have that kind of rage, but also to have that rage be so focused that you're like, I'm gonna slit their throats. I'm cutting their throats. Why would you say to yourself, I'm going to take this knife and I'm going to cut my father and my mother's throat with this knife, and then do it? There's a disconnect there, That's it. Any ideas? Please feel free to drop them below in the comment section. Thanks for